I think we're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. So, running a little bit late. Gonna jump on here, visit with you guys for a little bit, and then get out of here. I've been getting the car ready for the annual track rental. The only problem is Mother Nature has other plans, and so I've been spending part of the day trying to reschedule everybody. I'll tell you what, it's like herding cats. Anyway, getting everybody lined up on that. Really looking forward to hopefully chasing some density altitude and pulling a number out of Little Miss Revlon. I think she's got it in her, but we'll see if she can actually pull it off. So, it's kind of funny at this stage of the game. Marco's in. What's up, buddy? But at this stage of the game, I'm really not trying to do anything else with the car. It's kind of funny. I always talk about usable power. And when we're talking about modifications to a lot of these cars, one of the issues is that, well, one of the key takeaways is having a vehicle with usable power, something that's fun, something you can actually enjoy the thing without the threat of basically suiciding yourself with the thing. And so one of the problems with the Hellcat, and and the reason why I'm prefacing all this, a lot of guys will ask me, well, do I recommend the Hellcat? Would I prefer the Hellcat over a Scat Pack, or is there another car that I would prefer? And it's kind of weird. It's one of these like stage kits, right? It falls under the same kind of logic where you've got certain levels that you get to, and then anything more than that, it's like how much gravy is too much gravy, right? So I was out playing around in the car, just basically cooking fuel. It was first of the year, so Happy New Year to everybody. If you're watching this, you made it to 2023. Congratulations on surviving 2022. But basically what I was doing is I was out playing around in the car, and once a month I take the entire fleet for a drive. Whether it's just letting the thing run like I do with the Mustang. I typically don't drive it that much, mainly because it's got a freaking timing cover leak, which is going to make me lose my mind. I can't tell you how not in the mood I am to do a timing cover on a freaking Windsor motor, mainly because it involves removing the entire front engine accessory, which leads me to another thing. Ford, circa back in the day, why in the hell would you design something that would need two gaskets to work properly? We're talking about the water pump and the timing. Anyway, it's a complete I'm just not a fan of Ford right now. Anyway, but was able to cruise around in Sierra and drive the car. And one of the funny things about the Hellcat that is adorable right up until the point where it's not. Okay, so when I'm talking about usable power, I'm talking about being able to use the entire throttle, right? Like, and all the time. Now, granted, you're going to light the tires up from a dig, but I'm talking about just tipping into the throttle. Even on the drag radials, my car will start to haze the tires in a fairly significant way at 45, 55, even 60, 65 miles an hour, depending on air temperature and the surface that I'm on. So one of the things that will absolutely drive me nuts is when guys ask, well, would I recommend the Hellcat? Well, yes and no. One of the things that I don't like about the Hellcat is that in certain conditions, it can be practically dangerous if you've modified it whatsoever. And so, word of caution, we're coming into boost weather. If you guys are out there wanting to play around in your cars and you haven't had a chance to drive them in a while, I'm telling you right now, these things can be downright spooky. So anyway, let's see. Let me check in. We've got Owen saying, good evening, Mopar tees. What's up, y'all? What's up, Owen? Sovereign is in. Happy New Year, Moto X. Greetings, Moto. Michael's saying, good evening, Professor Mason. And he got the flex. So I was saying, I have a question. Me, my car just said oil maintenance required soon, every 5,000 miles, conventional, high mileage, 5W30. I only have time on the weekends to do the oil change. I'm seeing my folks up in the foothills, 75 miles up. No, you're fine. Yeah, another 150 miles isn't going to hurt anything. You'll be a-okay with that. Car wash power brake saying, "Hey B, what's up?" So anyway, getting back to it, it's kind of funny. I have a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to the Hellcat, and I guess this is really where I'm going with all of this. With my drag strip closing, it opens up some new possibilities for me. Do I keep the Hellcat? Do I sell it and get something else? Do I look maybe back at a 1320 as an option to something just playing around on the street? Do I start looking at some of the old school iron? A lot of options start to open up. Marco saying sell it, get a regular cab. Funny you should mention that, because a D100 with a big block swap wouldn't be too bad. Actually, be a D150 with a big block could be a lot of fun. So anyway, it's kind of one of those things where you start to look at what could be or what might be an option for you moving on down the line. And I haven't really decided on what I would do just yet. That decision is gonna come in April when my local track shuts down. But I can tell you this: I don't know that there's anything else out there that I would want to bring to you guys unless Dodge comes up with something really worth talking about. And really, that's the other side of the point that I wanted to make. I talk about usable power, and I'm bringing up the 1320 just because I've got such a soft spot in my heart for that car. But that also brings to light the fact that Roadkill Nights this year is going to be, they're going to be bringing the Hurricane the Ford on the Brain, the Hurricane crate motor as their build around this engine. And I'm hoping that would possibly lend us to maybe assume that there's going to be a new Hurricane powered sporty type car coming down the line. Reference my begging for a new Conquest video, where I'm basically just tabling the idea that bringing back a car much like the old Conquest, aka Starion, would be a fantastic idea. It's an awesome car. It's an icon from the 80s. You've got the Supra and the Z that are just primed for a third candidate, a number 3 in this competition. I think it'd be a whole lot of fun. So, it's one of those deals where if I had an option like that, I would probably take it, mainly because I feel like I could have usable power somewhere around the 600 horsepower range in a car that weighs about 3,800 pounds would be practically ideal. It'd give you all the entertainment you could on the street, completely different driving experience, if you will, and would open up a lot of options in terms of tuning that you just don't have with the naturally aspirated V8s. And so I'm probably leaning more in that direction. If I find out that Dodge is going to be going that route, I will probably be putting my name in the hat very quickly for one of those cars. So, it's one of those things where I can't stress enough how much I love the Hellcat, but at the same time, over some period of time, that just doesn't help the channel either, right? I mean, yeah, doing stuff like that is fun with that car, but that car's got probably close to 1,000 passes on it at this stage of the game. Still runs fantastic. So, if I were to consider something else, it would have to be more along the lines of a newer technology or a different technology. But anyway, let me get back into you guys real quickly. Moto X is saying NorCal's getting rain tonight. That sucks. Yeah, I know y'all been getting pounded. Um, Damn, more rain coming. That sucks. Marco's saying he's still waiting for HP to send him an unlocked ECU. If you need to get one unlocked quick, send it to Pites. They can do a one-day turnaround. Pites Performance Tunes here in Houston, Texas. Sam's wanting to get a new interior for his truck. I get that. Damn, somebody drowned in their car off 99. That happened, unfortunately, down here, too. Houston's bad about flooding. We're saying 426 swap regular cab. If I were to do anything regular cab wise, so I was talking to Matt, the owner of Mo's Performance. If I were to do anything, it would be probably a stock 392 swap. That would be a whole lot of fun with a 355 gear. Moto X, LA drivers in the snow, yeah. And the main reason why I would probably go 355 gear, mainly because I wouldn't have anything really to worry about in terms of how fast I could run the truck. I could buzz along at $130 and not have any vibration issues. And but if I ever were to do another Dodge truck, it would be something along those lines. Oh, Sam's saying I got a line on a 392 fully dressed for $8 bills. Want to put it in a D150, but can't find the truck. Dodge trucks are hard as hell to find, man. I'll tell you what, every time I've gone looking for a Dodge D100 or D150, I end up rolling snake eyes. Every single roll, man. It just kind of stinks. I can make a V8 Suburban go faster than a Porsche. I can make a V8 Suburban go a lot faster than a Porsche. In fact, made a lot of Durangos go a lot faster than Porsches at the shop. Sovereign saying, you got to sell the Hellcat, get a 392 again. It'd be at the top of the list. Meldex saying, look out for him. Every one of the Dodges that I've found, they either wanted an obnoxious amount of money for them, which is kind of the par for the course right now. They either wanted an obnoxious amount of money for them, or they were just absolutely basket cases. And so what I was planning on doing, in fact, it's a build that this is no kidding. It's a build that I've wanted to do since I was a kid, a young kid. I wanted to get a D150 short bed, drop it, put torque thrust Ds on it, and just do a 440 or a 383 with a set of max wedge heads and intake manifold. Roller converted, who cares? But a max wedge setup would have been perfect for that truck. Something like a 575, 6.25 horse wedge big block, with all the tip-in torque you could ever ask. That's where Dodge smokes Chevy and Ford. It may not make the outright power, but damn it, everything under the curve is just so much better with the Dodge. So anyway, that's what I wanted to build at one point. Gear it with a set of like 327 gears with a 727 and about a 2,500 RPM converter, and just wreck shop on burnouts for distance. Marco's asking, do they ship to Canada? Man, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. He'll probably ship anything anywhere. Moto X saying flooded Teslas for sale. Yeah, no thanks. Ken saying Trackhawk would be fun. Yeah, Trackhawk would be fun. Now that you mentioned Trackhawk would be a whole lot of fun. Cinema's asking, even be any fluid diff recommendation for a 309 limited slip 1957. Hope you had a great New Year. Same to you. Yes, get the Mopar fluid. That is 100% what I use in all the cars that I've got, and it works great. check with your tech. Some guys recommend the bottle of the friction modifier. Technically, the fluid has friction modifier in it. I don't think it hurts it to run the extra bottle of friction mod, though. I ran it in my old diff, and it was fine when I pulled it out. It was just time for a refresh. In fact, I've still got it sitting like literally right there. And it's been recently serviced. And in the new one, I didn't run any friction modifier, just running the fluid like the tech said. So, it's Chris saying, "Hey B, I just bought a used 2017 TA 392. Is just wanting to know if there is a way to know if the ECU has been unlocked. I ran a 12.0 on all season tires, and I'm not sure if it's stock." 12.0 is a bit of a stretch. It's pretty easy to tell if it has been unlocked if you do a code reader on that computer and you get a P1400 code. That will tell you that it has been unlocked, and there is probably a tune on that computer. So I'm not saying, though, that it's out of the question. In really good DA, we've run 1150s with some of the newer cars, 17s maybe not so much, but 18s and 19s and up. We've run 1150s, and really even 1170s is not out of the question on a drag pack. Pretty easy to do, as a matter of fact, on a bone stock car on a tire. So if you had really good air, I'm not going to say it's out of the question, brother. But that 1400 code, P1400, will be the one that will immediately let you know it's been unlocked and tuned at least. It doesn't necessarily mean you have an aftermarket tune on the car. They could have put it all back to stock, but it will tell you that it has been unlocked. And it has had a tune put on it. So we're saying, build you a 392 1500. Yeah, I've thought of that. Like saying, what, Professor B in chat? Actually, I've thought about it a lot. I've thought about it enough to where it would be a lot of fun. I don't even know if I'd put a cam in the thing. Just stock cam, stock converter, long tubes, rock a 355 gear, and just have a fun ass street truck. I mean, I maybe put one of my CDO1 grinds in it. That'll make it act like a 426. Again, with the gearing, I probably wouldn't have too much of an issue with that. Oh, Chris saying the only mod that he knows of, it's got a muffler delete. Yeah, it might be stock. I've been able to eke some really good times out of some of those cars, even on stock tires. So, X is asking, what's a better deal, a 2015 Scatty for 30K or a 2011 Shelby GT5 for 35? Get the GT500. Oh, Sam's saying he can find the 87 to 93. It's just not the 77 to 83. That's the same years I'm looking for too, man. They're hard to find. Just saying I'm biased. I get the 392, no question. Yeah, coming from Sovereign. Zap, what's up, brother? Saying Happy New Year, my brother. Hope 2023 is treating you and Natty Light well. Love you, buddy. Love you too, man. Man, you must have been reading my mind. I was thinking about you, dude. Don't be a stranger, homie. Love you, brother. Sovereign saying 392 low and punch. Yeah. I know it, man. The thing is that, I mean, I would like a little bit different challenge. I would like the idea of the new Hurricane. I just, man, specific output, horsepower per pound of boost. I got to tell you, man, it is so flipping. How do I put this? It's off-putting. That's all I can really intro with that. When 500 horsepower, but 26 pounds of boost. I mean, 400 at 22 is pretty rough, man. I mean, especially when you consider that the 3.5 liters making 400 at 15 pounds of boost. So, man, it's a bit of an ask. That's all I can say. Someone's saying, B saying, get the GT. Yeah, if it were up to me, and that's another car, by the way, guys. And my buddy Nate's got a stupid, sick to death GT 500. I'm so flipping jealous of his car. Anyway, I have had the fact that I don't own a GT 500 is weird. I have had more fun in GT 500s than any other car that I could think. Let me explain to you why I love the GT 500 so much. And I love the older ones, the old tombstone back, looking back of the car. I like all of them. But that car has such historical significance, and nobody really seems to give it the credit that it deserves. So let me break it down to you why. The GT 500 is the follow-up to the Terminator Cobra, which was the follow-up to the original, the stage setter for the supercharged hot rods, which is the SVT Lightning. And I've owned two of those trucks, the latter of which I wish I'd have never gotten rid of. That's beside the point. Getting back to it, the GT 500 existed at a time when there was no Hellcat, obviously, but there was no Challenger and there was no Camaro. It stood on its own. Ford did not have to put 500 horsepower out there, but more to the point, 500 pound-feet of torque. And basically, it was a big block power in a car that is a Mustang, that is a true looking, just when you look at it, it looks like a muscle car, okay? It's big, it's heavy. Its blessing, though, was its curse, in that it never was available with an automatic transmission. It was always only available with a 6-speed manual. But that's part of the good thing about that car. Let me explain to you why it is. Okay, so a GT 500 is not a drag race car. You can take one to a drag strip. It's not my point. It's just not a drag car in my eyes. In my mind, it's just not that. It is a fun ass, big block torque having, row them gears type of an experience. And yeah, by today's standard, the interior is a little bit basic, but that just adds to the car. If I were to find one, and this again is, the idea that this would happen is pretty far-fetched, but if I were to find one that was tastefully modified, that would be the car that I would probably buy and then never sell afterwards. Anything else that I would get would have to be in addition to a GT 500. I want to be able to say the same about the Hellcat, but I got to be honest with you guys, with the varying electrical issues with the U-Connect, body control module fritzing, little goofy things that seem to go wrong with Mopars, especially from 2015 and some 2016s. The later cars seem to be okay. But damn if it doesn't make the GT 500 just look so good, not to mention the fact I still got a freaking Hirsch shifter handle that will fit it beautifully. It's the long one too. And it would take me back to a time in my life where I was wrecking shop on people with Mustangs. And, but I'm just not a Mustang guy so much anymore. I prefer the big, meaty torquiness of a Roots supercharged, manually shifted transmission over pretty much everything else. So that's not drag race focused. And with the drag strip going away, maybe it'll bring back a little bit more fun into the mindset as opposed to just, straight line acceleration. We'll see. J Mass saying howdy. What's up, Jay? Ryan, I am a mind reader. I love it. You've been reading my mind, boy. Dude, I was rocking a Hando Gin at the gym today. So If y'all don't know, I'm not even gonna try to explain it. It's an experience, not a descriptive. But dude, I was rocking it today. Uh, so yes, my friend, you are a mind reader. P. Foreman saying 2015 SRT 392 less than $18,000 for sale. Really? Do not tempt me. Moto X is asking, where do you have to go to race now that Houston is closing this year? Well, if I want to run 8th mile, I've got a fairly decent 8th mile track in Motorsports Park. 8th mile is kind of fun. It can be fun. And Motorsports Park has got, I mean, some of the best burgers in town. Everybody there has always been really cool. I like that it can get a little bit, it's not even rowdy. It just gets a little bit street racery-ish, which to me is actually kind of fun because, again, it reminds me of back in the day type stuff. So when the track prep is good, it's awesome. But different times of the year, you're really only going there to hang out and make a couple of passes, and that's it. So again, rock a burger, a Frito pie, and that's about it. Now, if I want to go quarter mile racing, Evadale, which is just north of Beaumont, which is about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours east of Houston, is available. And you've got Pine Valley, which is in Lufkin, which is about 2.5 hours away from Houston. And then, of course, you got Dallas, which is about 3.5 to 4 hours away from Houston. With San Antonio even still running? I don't even know anymore. Anyway, those are the options, but the problem is that all of those options are really not an option for a lot of folks that live anything west of downtown Houston. You're just not going to see a lot of guys wanting to drive over 2 hours in one direction just to go racing. So what are the options? Well, the options are limited. I can only say that. Sovereign, I have not seen that yet, but I am looking. I will check it out. But any vehicle that has no dipstick tube is a bit of a problem for me. Hex is laughing. Oh, Sam talking about building some D250s. Like I say, good. If you can find a nice one, I mean, latch on to it. It really doesn't matter what it is. If you're looking for a Dodge anything, I mean, that's, like I say, the problem with the Dodge is that everything else will dissolve around the frame and the powertrain on a Dodge truck. So one of the reasons why you just don't see any of them. I mean, they were cheap. A lot of guys bought the D100, which has got a bunch of cheap parts on it. It's not like a Ford or a Chevy where it's got, it's all just like truck parts. Dodges were, if they were a light duty truck, they were a bunch of light duty parts. And so, that can be a bit of a problem. Oh, Sovereign saying, yeah, you saw the Excel chart with the HP comparisons. The Hurricane using 22 pounds of boost. Yeah. And that's the standard output. That's the 400 horse version. Shelby's in saying, glad to be here. Glad to have you, Shelby. Dan saying that GT500 is pretty sweet. Dude, I'm telling you, there is not a better car for just going out and goofing off, having fun than a GT500. It's big. It's a proper muscle car. People talk about the Mustang as it's a pony car. Well, if you're not talking about the GT500, and I'm not talking about that DCT nonsense, I'm talking about a real GT500. That was a true on muscle car. Clutch pedal, 3 pedals, one for each leg, right? So the way I see the GT500 is just such a badass personal entertainment device. You're not buying it to win races. You're buying it to just have a fun ass, torquey, smoke the tires at will, and they take to tasteful modification. In other words, okay, modified a little bit, small pulley, no, small upgrade in pulley, not an itty bitty party pulley. But just get the thing to around 650 or 700 horsepower to the rear wheels at the most. I wouldn't even go 7 bills. I'd probably go like 650-ish. And you'll have a car that'll last you and your grandkids, for that matter, forever. And it's such a fun thing to drive. So anyway, I can go on and on about that thing. Someone's liking the '08 Mustang. Yep. 62 saying the Terminator started the muscle car era 2.0. I'd have to disagree. I would say it was the Lightning. Like I say, everything happened after the Lightning. The Lightning hit the scene in '99 and blew everybody's mind. Yeah, it's a truck, but in terms of being muscle, it was tough to beat. And the Terminator Cobra just took it to its next eventual step. I kind of wish that Ford would have done something a little bit different if they'd have put a 32 valve variant of the 5.4 into the Lightning. I think it would have been a whole lot different animal. But at any rate, I mean, both of my Lightnings were mid 11-second trucks at least, or upper 11-second trucks. My first one was an upper 11. My second was a low 11-second truck. So let's see. Sovereign's liking the 06 to 08. Yeah, he likes the big booty cars. Dan saying, wish the Mopar would have stuck with the Challenger and the V8. Let me ask you something. Okay, so and then he goes, I'd play a Dodge 2.2 turbo cars. Me too. I had one at least. The problem, Dan, is that you cannot extract any more power out of a 2-valve engine and still be able to pass emissions, have component protection like catalytic converter over temp. And well, that's really the only one you're worried about in for this part of the conversation. The issue really is that it's based around the fuel that you have. And 91 octane, and even 93 for that matter, can only support so much power in a naturally aspirated configuration. And unfortunately, the reality is that the V8s, and we've tried this over and over again, just trying to extract more and more power out of these things. And it's just really tough to do it. You're doing good to pick up 20 horsepower. And that's, of course, discounting any camshafts or anything like that. But to get a naturally aspirated engine to really perform well with tuning and fuel, for that matter, it's going to require a couple of scenarios. The first scenario that it's going to require is that the car has a extremely soft tune in it for 87 octane. The other thing that it will take, the other option rather, is like the Mustang, where it comes out of the gate with obnoxiously high compression ratios. In that respect, yes, they will respond more to tuning because you can get away with more with the direct injection plus the rail injection. You can get away with E85, where E85 just really doesn't help lower compression engines. You can't take advantage of the timing. We've tried this over and over and over again with power sweeps, with Mopars. Just keep throwing timing at it on E85 and just see what happens. And they would get to a certain spot in power and just fall right back down. So the legit, real Dave Kaufman asks, if I buy a wide body Scat Pack Challenger, can I get the Demon hood and wheels and tires with direct connection? You can get the Demon hood, maybe the wheels, and you can get the tires aftermarket, but you will not be able to get the branded Demon tires. But you can get the the NTO 5s. You can get from Nitto, and you can absolutely get the hood. I'm not sure about the wheels. Someone's asking, I'm just happy Dodge was able to be a part of Carroll Shelby's vision as well. Chevrolet missed out. Yes, they did. Chevrolet missed out big time. In fact, that's who they wanted. Boosted Hemi, thank you very much. Appreciate the support. Didn't have a question, but thank you very much for the support, my friend. Dan's hanging out with Sovereign. X saying, oh, the 06 Mopar SRT were the first 400 plus NAV8s. Were they? 2006? Oh, wait a minute. That would be the original SRT. I thought that was coming out in 08. Followed very closely by the original Coyote at 400 horsepower. Mustang GTs were 300. Yeah, the GT was 300, but I mean, we're talking about the GT 500, man. That's a different cat altogether. And I miss that car. I miss cars like that car. And the thing is you can say, well, what about the Hellcat with the 6-speed? It's close, but I don't know. For some reason, that car, it probably because of the weight of the thing, it just never really gave me GT 500 vibes. Oh, Sovereign's asking about the SMS 570 and 570X Challengers. Those were neat cars. There was what was the name of the dealership that was selling? There was that one, and I think there was another one. Another company was making supercharged variants. Cool cars, man. Really cool. The legit's asking, was the C7Z06 supercharged? Because, yeah, it was. One of my favorite cars to drive, hands down, is a C7Z06. Asking, because Street Speed 717 said the C7ZR1 had a bigger blower than the C7Z06, which is true. And that was basically the only difference between the two cars. And listen, if you're an alien and you just landed on Earth and you saw the two sitting next to each other, you'd have a hard time really picking out the differences. But yes, the bigger blower is a significant difference between the two, quite frankly, because that 1.9 liter that the Vet comes with is just undersized for that engine. So yes, the larger supercharger makes a big difference on that car, along with a little bit different cam profile. But yeah, if I remember correctly. X is saying, Mopars have always had the most torque or horsepower to torque ratio. I can tell you this, the only downside to the Mopars, if you like the big blocks, is just the port window is so little on the big block Mopars. It's not like a big block Ford or Chevy where you've got these big honking ports. But that being said, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you're looking for a lot of average power and a lot of power under the curve. So absolutely nothing wrong with a 440, but they're always going to be down on power. Even with a set of max wedge heads, I mean, you would have to do some significant porting to get them to act right. But you also have to remember, I mean, those engines were designed, forever ago, in essence. I mean, they were, how do I say this? Like, as far as performance big blocks go, they weren't really the first, right? There were others that came out shortly after they were designed that were also, big port engines. But the Dodge was really building average power. As a matter of fact, a lot of that technology was based around cross ram intake manifolds, the real long cross ram manifolds that were designed for charge stacking at about 2,400 RPM, 24 to 2,700 RPM. And the idea was just to be able to tip into the throttle and have a big wave of torque. And that's what you get if you have small ports and long runners. And really what it is, it's all about delivering a lot of velocity through the port. That is at the expense of high RPM power. But man, you get a ton of power under the curve. If you guys have ever driven, any of the older carbureted engines, especially the General Motors stuff, if you've ever driven an older 350 and older 400 small block, they've got these small port windows, even the 305. But man, you just tip into the throttle and it's immediate hit of torque. And that's really where they had such an advantage. Sovereign saying a scat pack with the Demon hood. Yeah, hell, Demon hood with the Demon air intake. It'll fit. Patrick saying, good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Good evening, Patrick. Dan's checking in saying, Happy New Year. What's up, Dan? X is asking, B, what's your opinion on the SRT with a 5-speed versus 2015 Plus with the 8-speed? Well, here's the thing. I mean, the 8-speed is objectively a better transmission. Although I have to admit one thing. The 392 with a nag 1 is it's a bit more drivable in a lot of areas. In other words, you can roll into the throttle pretty hard in first gear and it'll hook with a 392 and a nag 1. You don't really get the sense that it's ever going to hook ever in first gear with an 8-speed automatic. There's some things that the nag 1 will do that is, I mean, it's not, I will never say it's inferior to the 8-speed, but there's some things that the nag 1 will remind you of. It's just an older, kind of an older school feeling transmission. But with that being said, it's still tunable. I mean, you can tune that transmission. They make torque converters if you decide to go that route. Wouldn't really recommend it. But the later cars, the HP 70s, it's not like they're always hunting for a gear. I mean, the HP 70 cars are in general quicker, but once you get the things rolling, I don't know that you would really recognize a whole lot of a difference. I mean, you'll notice it down low, and you might notice that the nag 1 will sometimes have a little bit more of a doldrum if you go to watt the throttle, where it just isn't as hyper as an 8-speed automatic car in specific areas. But I mean, that's any transmission is like that. So even the 8-speed for that matter. So I like them. I've never been the guy that'll say, don't get a nag 1, get the 8-speed, man. I'm not really like that with that car. I will tell you that if I had my choice between the two, I'd take the 8-speed. But if I found a really clean 392 nag 1 car, I wouldn't kick it out of bed just because it had a nag 1. 62 saying, I understand what you meant with the Hellcat because mine, when it was stock, felt lazy and slow for a 700 horsepower car. And I'm glad you said that, 6, because here's the thing. When I was saying that, this is back years ago, and I was saying, guys, look, if you're thinking about getting a Hellcat, I'm a guy that owns a 392 car, and I'll tell you that I've driven enough Hellcats to be able to say that unless you are in that throttle, it's going to feel a little bit soft, and it's never really going to feel like what in your head you would imagine 700 horsepower to act like. Roy, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying Happy New Year, Roy. Happy New Year to you too, buddy. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much, man. Let's see. Again, Boosted Hemi, thank you too, buddy. Patrick saying good evening and Happy New Year to everybody. Dan saying Happy New Year. Make sure I'm getting everybody here. Just saying, if the C7 Z06 was supercharged, then why didn't they supercharge the C8 Z06? For a few reasons. Mainly, it's, I think, transmission based. There's a lot of torque nannies in that DCT transmission. So there's that to consider. Even though a lot of them can handle quite a bit of power, there's guys that are putting turbo kits. Pike's Performance runs turbo kits on those transmissions. You can build them to make more power. From the factory, they're just not able to sustain the torque loads that supercharged engine can produce over long periods of time. And so can't run it. The new Z06 is making a ton of horsepower, but comparatively speaking, the torque is low, especially under the curve. So that's mainly the reason why. And you'll find that a lot with DCT, a whole lot of DCT transmissions. You'll find them in cars that make a ton of horsepower, but just not a lot of torque. They're great for high revving, lightweight cars. X is asking, what would you choose? A 426 stroker, supercharged, or a 6.2 Hellcat? A lot to break down there, X, because I'm not a big fan of supercharged 426s. I've been involved in the build on a lot of them, and the problem with supercharging 426s is you got to feed 426 cubic inches, and to do that takes a lot of blower. Now, with that being said, with the new Whipple 3.0 and really the IHI 3.0, that combination with a 426 would be pretty good. And you could run fairly low compression, decent amount of boost, say about 12 pounds of boost at about 9 or 9.5 to 1, and make just this side of 900 horsepower with a 426. It would not be that hard to do on pump gasoline, and you wouldn't be overstressing any parts. So there's that. But I mean, I guess, there's at least that to look at. But I mean, you're talking about what is in essence a modified Hellcat engine, larger displacement, superior supercharger, or at least superior in terms of size. So it's basically like leveling up, going from the 6.2 to the 426. Now, with all of that being said, what are you going to do with all the power? We're just talking about usable horsepower. And in my experience, even a mild 426 with a D1X supercharger is going to make 850 horsepower to the rear wheels. On E85, hell, it'll make 750 on accident practically on pump gas. And this is on a Mustang dyno, not on a dyno jet. So you have to take some of that into consideration. I mean, at some point, again, it's just unusable, and it's all fun and games, and it's all great until you're cruising down the highway at, say, 85 miles an hour, and you stab the throttle because, hey, let's see what this thing will do. Let's have a little bit of fun, and the car starts to get real out of sort. Ask me how I know, okay? It's the guy that was doing all of the data logging at Pikes. I can tell you that when I would do, high load testing with the cars, and I'm data logging it on the street, transmission testing, all of that. We're not out there running the piss out of the car just to run the piss out of the car. We're high load testing the thing. If it's going to fail, it needs to fail in our hands, not in yours. I can tell you that it wasn't a lot of fun. Some of the real high horsepower cars would get a little bit out of sorts. And they would get kind of nutty at about, okay, so let me give you a perfect example of this, of how 426 cubic inches, unless you're going racing, is practically useless. And I'll always bring this car up, Excessive, Racer X's car. When I was taking his car to Dallas for him, he gave me the phone call, and this is the story. You guys know the story. I was trying to see what kind of fuel economy I could get out of the thing on E85. And he goes, well, how is it in terms of stability? And I said, well, let's find out. And that car would haze the tires up, on a set of drag radials, it would haze the tires at 85, 90 miles an hour up to 130 miles an hour. And it's stable when it does it. Chargers are really well known for their high speed stability, but it's also, it helps when you're around these things as much as I was and am. If it's my pick, I'd probably just go 6.2. I know what it can handle, and I know that at any given minute, you can breathe on the thing just a little bit and get 1,000 horsepower out of them. That's kind of what you would do. Now, I will say that there is some logic if you're asking, okay, well, what about, maybe just a lower compression 426 with a low boost, say 8 to 10 pounds of boost? if you're going to do that, you're wasting your money, because you could just do the same thing with the 6.2 liter and it'll make as much power as the 426 under those given parameters. So again, if you're going racing, it really, even if you're going racing, 426 ain't going to get you where you need to be. You need to be in the 440, 454 cubic inch range and boosted and have spray on top of that. I mean, and that's just me being real with you. You're not really going to be making any noise unless you're going to be somewhere in the, 780 range. Used to be an 850 car was fast, and now guys do that with nitrous and the stock supercharger. So just saying. Sovereign's asking me if I heard about the thing that happened to Van Boris. Yeah, that was weird. Really weird. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'd stay clear of all of that. Let's see, Sovereign's hanging out with Dan, saying, yeah, you obviously pissed somebody off. Yeah, I guess so. Just asking, how much horsepower can I add to a stock Scat Pack safely? Man, you got to define a lot of stuff. And this is where consulting a professional is going to be real important for you. So how much horsepower can you add? Where do you live? What's your altitude? What kind of fuel are you running on? Is boost an option? What kind of boost are you looking for? Is nitrous oxide in play here? Are we going to keep this thing just straight up atmospheric and not augmented? If it's Atmo only, then you can go cam, long tubes, intake manifold, and everything, and you'll be fine. The problem with the 392 is not the 392 itself. It's the transmission that is bolted to the HP70. Although a fantastic transmission, is not built like an HP90, where an HP90 seems to be limitless in its capacity to handle power. The HP70 isn't quite so much, at least not at that weight. I would say that somewhere on a Mustang dyno, an eddy current dyno, somewhere around 550, 575 pound-feet of torque is going to be your limit. So, 150 shot of nitrous probably wouldn't do it, but you'd be probably fine with 100 shot, depending on who's tuning your car. A D1X supercharger would be fine, but Maggie at the same boost level might not be, because it's a lot of power and a lot of torque right off the hit. So there's that. If you live at sea level, that's going to affect the power production that you can get away with in terms of pounds of boost, rather if you live at altitude. There's just a lot that goes into it. But those numbers, uncorrected numbers, by the way, are what you would look for to be kind of step-off points. In other words, I'm just not going to go much further than 550 foot-pounds of torque to the rear wheels. Dan is checking out. Thank you for hanging out. Let's see. Roy's checking out. Oh, Dan's, yeah. Jacob's asking if I recommend Dusterhoff tuning. I've never actually worked with him. I would recommend Alex Peitz. That's Peitz. That is who I would recommend. Let him know that I sent you. Used to work for him. He's still a good friend of mine, and would always recommend him. He's the guy that teaches people that then teach people how to tune. So a very strong resource. Oh, 6'2" saying, yeah, his Scat Pack felt much stronger on the initial throttle blip than the Hellcat, and saying, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, my friend. It is. I mean, up until the 390, I'll put it to like this. Until the Scat Pack is making about 3 pounds of boost, the 392 is making more power than the Hellcat. That's just a fact. I mean, you can't argue with physics. The Hellcat is smaller engine. The Hellcat has lower compression ratio. It's got a belt-driven intake manifold on it that has extremely short runners. And so because of all of that, it's got to make boost to get there. Matter of fact, if you're going technically speaking, the Hellcat is making less power than the 392 up till about 5 pounds of boost, realistically, because of all of the things that it's got to overcome to get to that power level. So yeah, I mean, it's 100% accurate to say that because it is 100% true. So I'm saying like, share, subscribe. Kurt's asking, do you have a large sump oil pan so extra oil will prevent spinning a bearing? No, I do not. I just run the right amount of oil in my stock pan. Actually, the way that the pans are designed in the Mopars, they're really good about not having to worry about anything. They've got windage trays and everything else in there. Yeah, bummer about Ken Block, man. What? Man, that sucks. That was a really hard thing for me, man. I hate to hear that. Sovereign's asking, what is the top speed for a 392 Challenger? 140-ish? No. No. I can only give my own personal experience. No, they'll do well over 170 miles an hour. Someone saying Ken Block, yeah, he did. He did. Snowmobile accident. Unfortunately. Let me check something here, guys. And with that, folks, I have got to check out. We're coming up on about an hour, and I got to wake up crazy early. So, guys, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of you. Guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it more than you know. Happy New Year to everybody. Make it a safe and great one. And with that, that is a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.